guys, how's it going? It has been a beautiful, overcast, drizzly morning. It's nice and cool out. Sun's trying to peek through the clouds, but I do believe we have more rain on its way. So we are going to spend time in the high tunnel doing one of the most exciting and lovely things that I could think to do on an afternoon like this. We get to unpack a fresh load of perennials. There are 7 pallets total right here, plus we have a few new shrubs I want to show you. So I've got my coffee, and I thought we would just take our time, unpack these pallets together, and then walk through all of the plants, take a look at them, because these plants, so whenever we get a load of perennials, these are from Walter's Gardens out of Zeeland, Michigan, and they're a huge growing operation. Really amazing group of people that work there. And every time we get a load from them, they're the home of Proven Winners perennials as well. And these are all Proven Winners perennials. And whenever we get an order from them, I know they are going to be the most premium plants I've just about ever seen. They come in huge, beautiful, and if they're a type that blooms, most oftentimes they're in bloom when they arrive to us. So it's always a super fun load, like one of the more fun loads to unpack. I mean, just at first glance, you can see some penstemon in there blooming. I'm also seeing some mangaves, oh my gosh, and phlox. There's hostas in here, and echinacea I can see, Virginia. Oh, just a bunch of fun stuff. Oh, a monarda in bloom, bee balm. I think they'll be good in here too, being under cover, because we do have a couple of nights coming up that are 34 degrees. I know that's not freezing, but it's getting quite close. And some of these, especially that have blooms on them, I want to have them be in a protected spot. So just having this little bit of extra covering usually gets them by, keeps them a little bit more toasty. So I want to get all of the plastic off first. We'll get that part unwrapped, and then we're just going to start taking plants out, and we're going to line them up on the tables out here. Oh my gosh, see what I mean? Look at this plant. This is the most giant Virginia I think I've actually ever even seen in my life, including the ones that I've seen in the ground. Holy moly. I mean, look at that. Hand for scale. Look at how big this plant is. And I think what we're going to find here in this load is a mixture of new plants for this year, some new plants that are going to be coming out next year, and some old standby, tried by true varieties. Like I know I wanted some Price's White Echinacea, some Sweet Romance Lavender, Midnight Masquerade Penstemon, things like that that I just use a lot in the garden. So it's just going to be a really fun mixture of all of those things. Like this is a Peppermint Patty Virginia, which is a new one to us this year. And these mangaves, they're absolutely stunning. Look at that one up there. My goodness. I think those are going to be coming out next year. Look at the size of this plant. One plant.
What is it?
That is a Virginia.
What's a Virginia?
It's a shade-loving plant.
Oh.
They bloom pink in spring, so this one's already sent out its blooms. But that's intense.
That is very intense. So shade, huh?
I've never even seen one this big planted in the ground.
Really?
Yeah.
Well, that'd be fun.
I know. Okay, the next bit, we're just gonna go one pallet at a time, unload these, try to organize them in some sort of fashion, and then we'll walk through them all whilst sipping our coffee. Best day ever. Hear it? Perfection. My word. Oh, moly. My word. Huh. Oh my goodness. Oh no, that wasn't rooted in very well. All right, they've all been unpacked, organized for the most part, and watered. There were only a couple that were pretty dry. Everything else traveled really well. Look at this. We just filled this high tunnel right up. And I went ahead and put the mangaves straight away in the gator because most of them are a zone 9 through 11. So the whole bed is full. There's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 varieties here and 1 variety right there. So for now, I think we'll either put these in the greenhouse or the Hartley until things are a little bit more consistently warm outside. But do these ever have a presence? They are so neat. Let's just talk about these first. So all of these are brand new for next year. This is the biggest one right here. It's called a tidal wave. And you can see the beautiful speckling. It got a little bit wet because I did have it parked outside when it started to rain, and I ran out and flipped the gator around and backed it underneath cover because these do not like a tremendous amount of water, and they were pretty heavy when I took them out. So anyway, this one will have to dry out just a little bit, but these typically, this variety grows like 10 inches tall by 20 inches wide, which I think it's bigger than that already. I want to say it's over a foot tall. I mean, if you look at the top of the container to the top of the tallest leaf, that's over 12 inches. It's got to be. And then from tip to tip on the leaves, we're dealing with, it looks like over 2 feet. This one right here is actually the hardiest of the bunch. It's called Bad Hair Day. And I think that this one would be so cool in a head planter. You'd have to like pin back a few of the leaves like they were bangs. But they're very soft. They're not prickly. Like you can see on the edges of some of the leaves, they're very serrated and then they're very prickly. These are nice and smooth. But again, you can see the beautiful kind of reddish speckling on the leaves. And this one usually grows about 10 inches tall by 20 inches wide. Then there's this one right here. It's so beautiful. There's 2 more right up there. 1, 2. This is a lavender lady. And because of that sort of creamy white margin on the leaves, it looks like it has a glow quality, and I just think it's so beautiful. And it'll grow about 10 inches tall by 16 inches wide. And the edges look serrated, but they're very smooth. It's not pokey in the slightest. Then these little guys, which this one popped out of its container when I was pulling it out. I didn't realize that one of the leaves was stuck on the container next to it, and I pulled it out and the plant stayed. Anyway, I repotted it, should be fine. It's called Tooth Fairy. And this one just, you can see, has much smaller leaves, although I think it wants to grow about 12 inches tall by 18 inches wide, so potentially larger than the lavender lady right here. And then this one. Oh, this one is a night owl. There are 3 of them here. I cannot remember the full size on this one. 6 to 8 inches tall. That is way bigger than 6 to 8 inches tall. And a 16 to 18 inch spread. These are just premium. I mean, they look so good. The whole lot looks amazing. And then these up here, you can see that they've got a little bit more of an upright, tight growth habit. These are called Thunderbird. Aren't they pretty? And you can see the speckling on the leaves, a little bit more subdued. There's blooms starting, little buds right down in there. And if these stay the size the tag says, I would say that these are about full grown. 12 inches by 12 inches is how big those are supposed to get. These are going to be so fun to play with. I don't know a tremendous amount about mangaves, except for that they are a cross between an agave and a manfreda. I'm not even sure if I'm saying that right. But from what I understand, they are a little bit faster growing than traditional agaves, and there's a much wider range of shapes and colors, things like that. And I guess a lot of the varieties are much easier to handle. A lot of the agaves are just so hard to handle because they are so pokey, and I'm seeing that a couple of these have that characteristic, but let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4 out of the 6 varieties are pretty smooth and appear to be easy to work with. But they are gorgeous. Okay, I guess let's start right here and we'll make our way around. The first thing we're seeing here, these are a Baptisia called Periwinkle Popsicle. Now I want to say this one's new this year, but you can see the buds right here, the color that we're going to be enjoying. There's a, oh, I just knocked a couple off. Well, that's all right. We'll get a close up here. You can see the little yellow margin around the tip of the bud, and it's just a really pretty purple color. They grow about 4 feet tall and about 4 to 4.5 feet wide every year, like fresh from the ground. And this is what you see. Like you cut these back, either late fall or early spring, and then they shoot up from the ground like this, almost like little asparagus spears. Yeah, look at this. Very reminiscent of an asparagus spear. But they are a zone 4 through 9, and they bloom late spring through early summer. And then they're just a really kind of soft, nice looking shrub. It's a perennial, but it's kind of like a shrub size, small shrub, through the rest of the season. Next are the peppermint patty Virginias, which take up almost 2 full tables all by themselves, and there's only 5 of them. Oh my gosh, look at these. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Instant hedge right there. They are a part shade to shade loving perennial, which the tag says that they want to grow about 22 inches tall, which I believe. They're pretty good sized containers. So the container starts about here, and then it says an 18-inch spread. False. I think we could probably get in here and separate these a little bit. But they're huge. These are massive, massive plants. You usually get really nice fall color from these. And depending on your area, in more mild climates, Arizona 4 through 8. So usually on the higher end of that zone range, they stay nice all through the winter. You've got like a semi-evergreen here. And then on the colder side, they usually get a little bit winter weary and you need to clean them up in the spring. And all of them look really good. This one was really dry. You can see it's just kind of, it's having a hard time recovering. It will recover, and I watered it pretty heavily. But 4 of them look just amazing. And then we've got Empress Wu Hosta, which these are not new. These are an older variety, but they are awesome. They're an impressive hosta, growing about 4 feet tall, 6 feet wide. The leaves get massive, and I think they're a zone 3 through 9. And you can see that a couple of them are shooting up their flower stalks, which they're kind of a pale reddish purple. I learned when we were talking to the grower one year that these hostas, if you want them to get that huge size, they have to have quite a lot of water. And I thought that hostas were a type of perennial that liked dry shade, and I think they can handle that. Not in our area, it's just too dry here. If we don't give them consistent water, they tend to burn and tatter on the edges of their leaves. But even more water if you want them to attain that huge size. I mean, think about the root system of this plant and how big of a leaf canopy they're trying to support. And you got to give them the water to do it. And then we've got a whole bunch of sweet romance lavender, which it's already put on some blooms and it's putting on more buds. See one opening right there. I like this lavender because it stays very compact, 18 inches tall by 18 inches wide, and it's a zone 5 through 9. This is the variety we have planted in front of our vegetable garden fence. And I actually ordered them for that spot because last year I kind of thought that some of them were petering out. We've had the same plants in that location for a long time. But when I was cutting them back, I feel like I might have to replace 1 or 2. So we might be able to use these in a different location, or depending on how they break dormancy this year, we might be using a few more of these to replace those. But I love that variety so much up there that I just want to continue on with the same thing. And then we have another hosta. This is a brand new one for this year called Love Story. And it gets about 16 inches tall and about 3.5 feet wide. Really pretty, like medium green with the chartreuse yellow variegation, heavily variegated, which I think is fun. Makes it really shine. It's also a zone 3 through 9, and the flowers are a creamy white. And this next one is a brand new plant for 2025. It's a meadow rue. Love the leaf structure on this one, and they're so soft, but it's called Cotton Candy. And the reason it's called that is look at the flowers. And maybe we could toss a better picture up on the screen, but just like puffy, fluffy pink flowers. It grows about 18 inches tall, 2 feet wide, zone 5 through 8. And I think the tag says that they're lavender flowers. Let me see. I had it wrong a little. Yeah, it says wispy lavender flowers. Looks pink in the tag. I don't care. Either color will be pretty. Okay, switching gears here, we have a few shrubs. I don't think any of these are brand new, but there are a few that we're going to add into the garden here and then possibly at my parents' house. But we've got the Lo and Behold pink microchip buddleia, which these grow 1.5 to 2 feet tall and wide, pink flowers. We've got the Summer Wine Black 9 bark. I love the foliage color on this one. And I want to say it's 4 to 5 feet. Oh, nope. 5 to 6 feet tall and wide. I wasn't that far off. Zone 3 through 7 on that one. And then a few of the Miss Violet buddleia, which grow 4 to 5 feet tall and wide, purple blooms. And this one I'm most excited about. Aphrodite sweet shrub. It is a plant that I did not think would thrive in our area, but I planted one 2 seasons ago, and it absolutely does thrive in our area. Our dry heat, I have it planted in full sun. The leaves get big and like nothing like it looks like now. I mean, the leaves as the plant gets, further on in the season get really bold and they're glossy, and the flowers just seem to keep coming, and they're kind of a reddish color, but they're a cool red. They're really beautiful, and it looks like a type of flower that should not exist here in high desert. I don't know, and they smell good. They do get 5 to 10 feet tall and wide though, so you do want to make sure you have enough space. I'm excited about these. And let's see, I think these might be repeats of the other ones we just, oh no, we got 2 other ones right here. These are Spice Baby Viburnum. They're a smaller, like more compact Korean Spice Viburnum, so the scent from the blooms is amazing. 3.5 to 5 feet tall and wide. Definitely more compact than the older varieties. And then going down the middle aisle here, these are the biggest wee hostas I think I've ever seen. This is one of my favorite varieties of hosta because I love the like whirly curly leaves that they have. They come out in just this big swirl, and I think they're so beautiful. And for us here in our sort of climate, they've got a nice thick leaf. And because they're not so broad and they've got a lot of visual interest, even if they do burn a little bit on the edges, you don't really notice it as much. And they don't tend to burn as much because the leaf isn't as broad. It's not as big. But I just think they're so pretty. These usually top out at about 18 inches tall and 2.5 feet wide, which, oh, do you hear the thunder? We do have storm warnings this afternoon. They said some areas of our valley might receive 60-mile-an-hour gusts and big hail. Oh boy. I don't mind little hail, and I don't mind a little breeze, but 60-mile-an-hour winds and big hail, I'm not a fan of that. I'm a fan of these though. These are so gorgeous. And now we're moving on to a couple of new varieties of Delosperma that are coming out the next year. This one is Orchid Flash. Look at that. So succulent right here, but hardy, zone 6 through 10. 2 to 4 inches tall, so a nice little ground cover type plant that'll bloom beautiful purple flowers throughout the season. And then there's one called Pink Radiance. Oh, I think that is so pretty. So you've got the light lavender on the outside of those blooms, and then kind of that darker pinkish purple in the center. Oh, so pretty. And then a primula that is new this year, and these are almost bloomed out. Primrose are usually, an early spring bloomer, but you can at least see the color there. This one is a zone 4 through 8, and you can plant them in a shade to part shade location. I'm not sure that I've ever had a primrose come back that I planted in the ground, but we're gonna find a nice little spot to tuck these in and see what happens. And they only grow about 8 inches tall by 12 inches wide, so I've got a bunch of them here. but I can find a home for some of them, and then some of them can be here, and maybe, you know, testing them out in 2 different locations would be an interesting experiment. They have a nice little look to them though. Oh, and then we have a campanula. I am a huge fan of ground cover campanulas. This one is called Mini Marbles Midnight. Grows about 8 inches tall by 12 inches wide, so about the same as these right here. And they are a zone 3 through 8, but I just love the dainty little leaves here. And then they produce purple blooms like late spring throughout the summer, and they're just such a gorgeous, well, you can see in the tag right here, they're usually a very prolific bloomer. Of course, I don't have any experience with this variety yet because this one is new next year. This will be the first time I'm planting it, but I'm excited to report back on this one. We'll see how it does. Okay, we're gonna start at this end. Now this right here is an Artemisia called Silver Lining. And they always kind of look like this when I get them in. In fact, I'm gonna cut them back for you guys today because you can see that some of the leaves are looking a little bit tired. I don't know if they travel very well, but some things you just need to hack them back and let them come back fresh. But this one usually grows up about 1.5 feet, and then about 3 feet wide. I have these planted out in the landscape and they're doing really well. I can't remember the zone 4 through 9, and they truly do bring this beautiful silvery pop. Kind of a bright spot in the garden. And then we have one of my favorite grasses. This is a panicum called Niagara Falls. You guys, we have these in our landscape. I have shown them several times. They grow 4 feet tall by 4 feet wide very quickly. But the coolest thing about them is that the leaves, they broaden out wider than this right here. And then they get the most glorious bunch of seed heads. I mean, they look like a massive bouquet, and then they turn a wheat color. And they're just beautiful. And right here they look green, but if you compare them to like a green, they have sort of a blue tint to them, and in the landscape, I want to say they're a little more silvery than they even look right here. We've got a few echinacea here. This is the color-coded Price's White. I have planted these before. I needed a few to replace a couple that had Astor's Yellow, which I believe is a disease spread by thrips, which we've had a little bit of a thrip issue the last couple of years. And like the center, the cone starts to almost, it looks like it's exploding, and it produces all this weird growth in the center. Noticed it last year, so I need to dig up and discard those plants and pop these in. But these will grow up just under 2 feet tall and 18 inches wide, and they're zone 4 through 8. And then a couple of new varieties of yarrow for next season, 2025. Now this one, you guys are gonna be surprised, but Firefly Red Pop. I typically don't put red in the garden, but you wanna know something? I love red in our cut flower garden, and we are cultivating one quadrant of that garden to be perennial plants. And I planted some summer pastels, I think is what the variety was called, last year or the year before. No, it was last spring. I think it was last spring. Anyway, I wanted to add this Firefly Red Pop to that section in the cut flower garden because I love to cut very fall, like autumnal hued arrangements or flowers for arrangements from that garden. So I've got a few of those to add in. And both of these varieties, there's the Firefly Fuchsia. The pink one will probably go out in our flower bed somewhere, but they get roughly the same size, like just about 2 feet tall and a little over 2 feet wide in zone 3 through 8. And another new one for 2025 is the Designer Threads Heartstrings Coreopsis. Now you can see this one was just cut back, so it just needs a little chance to flush back out. But it is a zone 5 through 9, and it grows about 20 inches tall by 2 feet wide or so. The color of the blooms, it's kind of a red with a white exterior. I don't know if it's gonna maybe lend itself more pink in the landscape. We're gonna have to test it out. And then we've got a variety of phlox that's new this year, 2024, called Prismatic Pink. So it just sends up these bloom stalks with big round puffs of these pink blooms with a dark pink center. And they grow just over 2 feet, almost 3 feet tall and about 2 feet wide. And these newer varieties of phlox aren't afflicted by a lot of the same like fungal, like powdery mildew and things like that the older varieties succumb to. I mean, you still want to give them good airflow, but they're much more tolerant. I think that one's a zone 3 through 8. And then we've got Lavender Taffeta Monarda, or bee balm is the common name for it. You can see some color on them still and new buds forming up here. I love this plant so much. I mean, you just lightly brush the leaves. Oh, it's got such a nostalgic smell. It takes me right back to the summers being at my parents' house. And the pollinators love this plant. This one usually tops out at about 2 feet tall and wide, maybe just over. The one right next to it, the Midnight Masquerade Penstemon, is one of my faves just because I love the color of the leaves. It's kind of like a deep olivey, almost burgundy green, I don't know. And the really beautiful burgundy stems. And not only are the flowers gorgeous, you know, they've got like lavender and kind of creamy white, but when they're done, they create the most beautiful seed heads, and they've got such long, strong branches that are this burgundy chocolate color that they are awesome for cut flower arrangements. And I love how they create kind of this dense canopy of leaves down below, and then these like wispy, magical stems up above. And then this is my only unorganized plant. I ran out of space for it to go over there, so I'll talk about that when we get to the bigger group. But we've got a whole bunch of Desert Plains penstemon right here. Not penstemon. Did I say penstemon? I meant pennisetum. So this one I want to say is like a zone 5 through 9, a hardy pennisetum. I almost said penstemon again, my goodness. Grows about 3 to 4 feet tall and wide, and they get the most beautiful plumes on the end, and they create like this dome to where you've got branches coming out that almost go like horizontal along the ground. And then there's this, you know, very nice canopy that's very uniform. So you have seed heads all the way from one side of the ground all the way up and over to the other side of the ground. It's just like this big mound of plumes. And then we've got the Midnight Velvet Sedum, which is new for this year. We did have an opportunity to plant this one last year, and it looks like it's coming back already really nicely. You can see in the tag, it almost looks like a different plant, the tag. Are we sure? Is this Midnight Velvet? Maybe it gets more purple as it ages. I don't know. This one sure looks a lot more red, doesn't it? And this one has sort of a mauve-y green vibe, but it's not quite as red. Well, depending on what this one does, the Midnight Velvet grows about 2 feet tall and about that wide. Zones 3 through 9 with a pink flower, we'll see. Time will tell on that one. And the last one we have here are the Fall in Love Sweetly anemones. It's a Japanese type anemone that grows just over, I want to say 2 feet tall and maybe 2.5 feet wide. Pink flowers late summer through fall. And the thing that surprised me about these, because I do have these planted in a couple different spots, is that they can handle a lot of sun. When I first read the tag and it said it was a full sun plant, I thought, nah. I mean, no other Japanese anemone can we put in the sun. In our area, they always fry. So I did an experiment where I planted a big drift of them out in the south garden, right in full sun. I made sure they had plenty of moisture. We gave them some supplemental water until they were established. Now they're pretty much just on normal drip irrigation, and they're doing it out there. So I'm thrilled with that. And they've got a pretty look too. Their leaves are a really pretty shape. And we also ended up with a nice stack of pots that we can use to pot up some things in the greenhouse. They use these as dividers to keep the pots upright so we don't have any of them tip over in shipping. And that's it, you guys. What a wonderful afternoon to be in here. I mean, we just had a downpour of rain a minute ago, and so far nothing's materializing with this dark cloud. Nothing yet. Really pretty though, isn't it? It does say in 30 minutes we have a 100% chance of rain. But I'm gonna get these mangaves put in the greenhouse, tucked in, so they're nice and toasty tonight, and everything else should be fine out here. They're definitely tough enough, and you know, given the fact that they've got this cover, they should be good. On those 34-degree nights, I might run out here and toss some frost cloth over the top of them, just to give them a little bit of extra protection. But all of these are tough perennials for our area. I'm just not sure how they've been handled temperature-wise up until now, because a lot of them are way further along in their growth than most of my other plants out in the garden so far. But I hope you guys enjoyed this video. A little bit of a slower pace this afternoon, but it was just a wonderful time out here. I love projects like this. Fresh plants, under protection, enjoying the cool weather. Couldn't ask for more. So thank you guys so much for watching. I hope you're having a great day, and we will see you in the next video. Bye.